Hey everybody, it's Vika from Bad Health Monologues. I'm gonna take my phone out of my kigurumi pocket. So I was gonna take a little break, and because of exams this week and because I'm sick, I thought of something pretty cool to talk about with you guys that I hadn't really mentioned earlier. And I'm going to talk about an experience I had about mid last year. So more or less I'm going to talk about my egg donation. And I wore a happy kigurumi because it's cold and because happy kigurumi is going to make this whole story feel a lot less terrible, I feel like. Essentially, I worked with a girl who had friends that I met that were incredible, or at least what I assumed to be incredible people. They were looking for somebody to do an egg donation. I didn't really know what that all entitled, so I googled, before I committed to anything. And I knew that it wasn't like an easy process, but at the same time I figured I'm not really using mine per se currently, so I might as well, volunteer to get them to have a child. So I did a bunch of tests at the first company that we went to. The process is really long, so I'm also going to talk about the process and not just sort of what happened during the process, but just the process in general. We went to the fertility clinic, they met us, they met me, they asked me, I swear, over 100, maybe over 200 questions about myself, including my natural hair color, my height, any diseases that I could have had, which obviously I mentioned my epilepsy because it is a problem, and it most likely is genetic in my family because my grandmother has the same thing as I do. I was really honest. I answered all the questions, and eventually they wanted me to get an okay from a neurologist. He was the third neurologist that I had seen in Montreal so far. He was a pain in my ass, but eventually, we got the okay. They still didn't want to kind of do it, so we switched clinics because there was a sort of bill passing that this was going to be covered by the government anymore. So we wanted to kind of hurry and get it done. While this is all going on, for my birthday, I got a huge box of chocolates from the family that I was helping out. For Christmas, I got a whole bunch of Lush stuff. If some of you know Lush, then you're probably familiar with their products and how expensive bath bombs are. And they got a huge tin. It was impressive and kind of terrifying at the same time. After all that was done, eventually I went through with the procedure with the new clinic. They took me right away. They said that didn't really matter, that I got the okay and it wasn't a big deal. So we went through with the process for the egg donation. Let me tell you, getting to the point where you are okay to donate your eggs is crazy. I had to go for an ultrasound of my ovaries every 3 days when I was starting fertility medication, and they had to up my dose, and they were monitoring me very closely because I'm an extremely fertile person. I have a lot of follicles, which are little holes on your ovaries where the eggs are. So because I was super fertile, they were very careful. I had to completely quit birth control as well, which is why I changed types that I was using to a type that hurts more, but that was allowing me to do this for them. My goodness, what else was there that I had to do? I don't remember, but I do remember I had to prep my own needles and stab myself and inject myself every day with these hormones. It was crazy. When they said, okay, this is it, it's happening, she's ready, you're ready, boom, we did it. I gave myself the shot of progesterone to release the eggs so that they could go get them the next day. And that night I had multiple seizures because of hormones, and I think that my epilepsy is strongly linked to my hormones. So that was terrifying. I had so many seizures that night. I just remember I was sleeping and I was having them one after another. It was crazy. I was exhausted the day of the operation. They didn't freeze me enough. It really, really, really hurt. It was overall a really crappy experience. After all was said and done, I found out right away that the first egg that they had fertilized with the couple male's sperm took, and she was pregnant, and everything was really awesome up until it went to get I guess the monetary payment that they had promised. I was doing it for myself in a certain way because it made me feel really good to be able to do this for a couple. And I think that this is sort of, what their point of view was on the thing as well. I think that I was doing it first and foremost for that. And I was. It's just that it was extremely dangerous to my health. And I had multiple seizures, and I was in pain during the procedure, and I have long-lasting damage that they have told me about on my ovaries. So they were aware of all of these things, and the contribution that they needed to give me wasn't very large. I think it was just maybe $1,000. Like, at first they were super nice. They were like, oh, we understand, we're gonna get it to you as fast as possible. And eventually they stopped responding. So I wrote back to them and I was like, hey, how's it going? You know, like, nothing serious. Like, and then eventually I said, like, look, like, I still want that $1,000. Like, I did have a burnout immediately after because of the crash of hormones. A big part of it was because of that. I asked outright for my money back, and they just refused outright and called me selfish to ask for the money whenever the insurance wasn't covering some of the tests that added up to $1,000. They were, you don't understand, like, we're having a kid, like, it's expensive, and that really sucked. I guess I'm making this video to sort of share with you guys my experience of egg donation and how it ended. The psychologist that we saw at the beginning told us that we were going to have to sort of introduce me into the child's life at some point to sort of explain, like, look, like, mom and dad couldn't have a kid alone, so she helped. And for, like, just the general identity of this child. And that's not going to happen. The thing that bothers me the most about this experience is that the child's development might be weird, and they might, like, lie to their child about, like, how they were conceived. And I, like, according to the psychologist, it was pretty important for her, because it you know, she's a little girl, for her to know that I exist and that it's my DNA, even though, like, they're the parents, it's still my DNA. And, like, they seem to think it was quite important for someone's identity, because these kinds of things just happen to get found out at some point because somebody in the family doesn't know not to tell, and it's a mess to lie like this to a child. And it's good to present it in a certain way, and apparently, like, the child's not going to get this now, which worries me for the child. And it also sucked to know that I basically just got used by these people and put my health on the line, multiple aspects of my health, like my epilepsy, my depression, just multiple facets of my life, and they didn't even want to compensate me with what they said they were going to compensate me with at the beginning. I don't regret doing it. I'm happy that there's an extra life on this planet that comes, you know, from me. Like, there's my DNA running around somewhere. Like, that's pretty cool. I find it really awesome. I don't know. That part I find really cool. And that's my story with it. If ever you're considering donating for money, I know in the United States, you can donate for a large amount of money, and it's 3 cycles. Don't underestimate how difficult it is on your system, especially if you're somebody that's, like, very sensitive emotionally. There's a lot to jump through, and it's not just, like, a short commitment. It's a very long commitment, and I guess mine was longer because I was directly involved with the family as well, and they wanted me specifically as a donor, not just a random donor. Yeah, so I guess, like, I just wanted to kind of inform you guys about, like, that process and how that ended for me and how I felt about it. I'm overall, like, pretty upset with my experience because of the way it ended, honestly. I wouldn't do it again. I did it once. It was a cool experience. I found out a new side to myself that I didn't know existed, and I also grew a lot from how it had concluded. Like, I grew a lot from that, and I wouldn't change that at all. But at the same time, I kind of wish it would have ended on a happier note. I guess the family's really happy, and there's at least that the family is happy. I'm happy that they're happy. I just, you know, it's like a bittersweet sort of scenario. So I just wanted to kind of update you guys on how I was doing. This was something that was on my mind for a little bit that I didn't really talk about to that many people. Like, some of you know me and know, like, what I went through, and you're, like, aware of all of this. But for the people who aren't, I hope that I kind of opened your eyes a little bit on a facet of fertility that you maybe didn't know existed, and that you maybe appreciate, like, if you know an egg donor, that you really appreciate, like, the struggle that she went through to make another person or 2 other people's dreams come true. With that being said, I will be back more regularly after my exam, which is this week. Study hardy. Hopefully I'll be feeling better by then, and I'll be able to talk without sounding like death. So you get bonus cuddly cat on the bed, and I will leave you all on that. Have yourself a wonderful day, and have a great beginning of the week, guys. Bye!